Hey fellas, I've been wanting to do this video for months now, especially given how the crazy this year has been. Things have been getting in the way, but without further ado, let's get started. And let me say that I really love Splatoon. You know, that this series is relatively new as Nintendo's those ones go. But this video I'm going to be going over a brief history of the series so far, my personal experiences in that as since it became popular, and what the proposed third game might entail in your future. So let's get this started. Yeah, so part of what took longer than I expected on this was researching all of this, and it turns out that the first game especially has had a very interesting development cycle. I mean, what I already knew was that originally was plans like a Mario spin-off before it was retooled into a completely new IP. What I didn't know, given how I was just getting ready to finally do this before or I was able to today, was how many other kind of design concepts there were before the one we actually got. I mean, because the initial physics test actually had chunks of tofu shooting at each other. I mean, or just in black and white, which is actually not that uncommon where you have something that's kind of chunky like that to test physics, especially in these kind of games. And they originally had the avatars always be rabbits as well. Oh, I mean, however, her in this game, he was ultimately squids that were decided to be the either avatars, like how when and Nogami Hizashi, one of the directors of the Animal Crossing series, as well as Sakaguchi Tsubasa and Yusuke Amano, who would become the directors of the series, managed to work everything out, and the first game launched on the Wii U ahead of some several test fire events on May 29th, 2015. Needless to say, it was a much needed hit for the fledgling console given the state they're in, ultimately going on to sell over 4.9 million copies worldwide, almost 5 million, which that's definitely a sizable chunk of the install base of the console, and it's definitely would fit the definition of what I consider to be a must-own title for it. I mean, so the title whole main gameplay hook is consists of a 4 multiplayer matches. The main one being the turf war, and the design is the antithesis of, say, something like Mario Sunshine, whereas in that game you had to clean up a lot of the messes in order to clear your name and for a crime you did not commit. It's in this one, the object is to cover as much of the environment in your ink as you can, and if I kind of say that design-wise, I really like it how basically the whole series is basically what happened if say, hey, the Japanese want to make their own version of an old 1990s Nicktoon. I mean, you know what I mean? And I'm kind of glad that sort of style is seeping back into the network as well. I mean, for example, I have not seen Glitch Text yet, but I think it might be right up my alley, so there's that sense. And the whole, you can definitely tell that they wanted to have this whole one its own really big personality, like how given the announcers, here's Callie and Marie. See what they did there? I mean, I think I like how the attention to detail they've got here, like on these amiibo I've got. They have sushi hats, and even I think seaweed outfits. I just really love that kind of one, and it really helps them stay fresh, as it were. On that note, I like the variety of weaponry as well. I mean, how my favorite ones tend to be the roller weapons, where it's exactly the kind of absurdity that I love, where you're going after someone with with a paint roller, and you can definitely kind of tell. I think of the ones that are blast based. My favorite ones tend to be the NZAP weapons, like Name. Obviously, I've been seeing the classic Nintendo Zapper like an accessory. Hey, I mean, especially the NZAP 89 one, which is where they delightfully loud orange friends, and I usually tend to go for that one first, as well as the NZAP 85, which is the original gray model, and even going back for like to unlock the NZAP 83, which is actually based on a variation they had for the original Famicom in 1983, a full 2 years before the next one came to came stateside, and subsequently rescued video games as a whole from obscurity. Yeah, and yeah, and also the amiibo, the way they use them. Again, it's not just the loot drops; it also continues into the next game, which I will address also in the same video. But as well as like really fits the design, like how the all the exclusive weapons, gear, and even the challenges to get all that stuff, man. So, I mean, given how the design work here, I mean, is definitely one of the main draws. Like how I just really like the idea. I mean, especially when you look in the story modes of both games, like finding out some sea scrolls, which slowly but surely reveal that the conflict was indeed he did have humans leave, and the Inklings and Ottlings become the dominant species on Earth. I mean, had taken on traits of humans. I mean, making no assumptions there, but I like the whole like the clothes and like the unlockable shoes and everything like that. And it's definitely gleeful in its presentation, and how it's definitely a title that similar to pick up and play but tough to really master. I mean, I don't really play a whole lot of shooter hooters to be honest, but this is one of the three main ones I generally enjoy, like, which really says something about me as a person. Yeah. So, with the game being a success, it would only be a matter of time before they capitalized, which they did. Just around 2 years later, within the first year of the Switch's lifespan, a sequel was released with Splatoon 2, which I think feels like a necessary installment given how it expands upon what worked about the first game, refines some of the elements that weren't as as well. We'll see it. Like they definitely they he changed how the balance of the gear and weapons work, which is common for a lot of one's nature. On top of a lot of returning stages, elements, and gear from the first game, they also have a whole slew of new ones, and also entirely new characters as well. So, like including new hosts, like whereas Kelly Marie were based more on idol singers, basically they're like Hatsune Miku, who in the other vocalizer they were squids. It's the new host Pearl Marina, are essentially a inkified version of Tupac Shakur and Notorious B.I.G. He having like a more playful version of their well documented feud, but ultimately consider themselves to be worthy colleagues. Like so, and another thing I'll mention is that the periodical multiplayer Splatfests tend to be another big draw of the game. it impacted the story the second, and maybe he with his third one, I'll come back to this in a moment, is definitely going to be a big case of how they how there's so much care put into something like how, and this one, trying to be another big hit, has recently cracked the 10 million mark in sales on the Switch and is still climbing thanks to support heard updates and encore splatbats even, because I'm really looking forward to the Mario 35th anniversary one that'll be early in 2021, on, on which I definitely can imagine will be great. Yeah. Yes. There's also the fact that this game also saw the auto expansion, and as I mentioned before, I generally don't go for every single expansion and or season pass as I see for a game. Just specific ones I personally have an interest in, and unfortunately, this was one of them. Like, I actually got the pass before I even got through the main one of this game, and I am legit surprised how much content they were able to give us for just such a honest, honest price as these passes go. I mean, like how, like many people, I am not the biggest fan of microtransactions either, but thankfully, once you have the pass, you can and enjoy it and just unlock the content the old-fashioned way with stuff that's already on the given how you actually get a new feature for the first time, playable octolanes, and which adds a new shade of conflict. And even though some of the missions get pretty tough, especially depending on what weapon you're using, what conditions you got, which leads to many hilarious takes on sea cucumber, her her splatting your avatar, her. It's definitely one that seems to be encouraging replay value by design, I mean, in ways of one. And since I only fairly recently was able to actually clear that in this in this quarantine, and I definitely, depending on how much longer this lasts, I'm going to be also going back through to try 100% it and get all the rewards from it as well, man. In all sense. And but it still just easily blows my mind how much replay value is in just these titles, like how, and also how much I was like you definitely could give these games to someone who normally does not care about shooters that much, and they probably love them. I know that's the case with me. I mean, since I mean, I'll definitely be addressing the seeing the potential development of the third game as well. But I will say beforehand that given how other titles getting definitive editions and remasters for the Switch, given how a lot of people who still have not played this game because the console was on, I definitely think that it would benefit from one that could also have some visual enhancements from the second game or gameplay refinements. It would definitely be a quite the ride. I mean, heck, if Mario 3D World can get a new mode for the Switch as well on top of more content, then so can this one. But I also like how they make it accessible for a newcomer to follow. Like, even if you never played the first game, with this one story, you can still understand instinctively he that something happened to the characters in 2 years between the events of the two titles. Again, I won't be spoiling them here for those not played them, but it's for those who have, you probably gonna know what I'm talking about, or you will if you haven't played them yet and plan to. Yeah. So, what's what I personally want a from this third game they're working on? Well, I definitely could see them refining like the multiplayer salmon run more. I mean, maybe focus with less on overloading you and your allies and more interesting enemy behaviors. Heck, I wouldn't even mind having playable salmonids in this one as well and see what the human forms are like. I mean, and on top of finding the gameplay in visuals, I definitely could see, given how, again, without spoiling what happened with Callie Marie, I really it would not mind seeing how the events of the Splatfest affected Paula Marina's dynamic either, since. And but still, in such a short time, these characters have inspired so much. Like, they made it Smash Brothers, they've crossed over into other games like Mario Kart, they have a manga, they've all got sorts of fan arts, and there's even some talk of an animated TV series. Whether or not it would be 2D animated or CG, I welcome the idea. In a sense, if if things have gotten so crazy that how we were able to successfully make a Detective Pikachu movie as Sonic movie work, then I certainly hope that when the time comes these characters can be done justice in animation. Like, for instance, I've seen a lot of fan footage proof can work. So, and be as it may, I hope you all stay fresh in the coming months. And also given how tomorrow is gonna have a Smash reveal in the morning once again. Regardless of who it is, I'll let you know what it's like, and definitely talk to you more after the fact. So until then, don't get cooked and stay off the hook.